hundreds of them. This calls for strategy. I'll have to put on my thinking cap. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Get them while they're cold. Get your ice cream can. Here's yours, Bowlegs. Here, one for you, Monkey Face. Don't shove, there's plenty for all. Here you are, Slant Eyes. Everybody gets one. Ice cream. Well, that's that.
Oh, just 1 minute, Joe. Just 1 minute. Oh, you no get away from me. You wait. I got the free one.
Believe me, Sweetie Face, it's a pleasure.
Business is booming.
World War II was the most destructive human-caused event of the 20th century. Around 60 million people, mostly civilians in Europe and Asia, perished in battles and firebombed cities, from war-caused famines and epidemics, or in industrial-scale death camps like those set up by the Nazis in Eastern Europe. When the killing stopped in 1945, the United States, which suffered about 400,000 military deaths, with just 6% of the world's population, produced half of the world's goods. It seemed, in the confident words of Time Life magazine publisher Henry Luce, the beginning of the, quote, first great American century. The war unleashed forces that shaped the next half-century, although not always along the path that Luce and other Americans anticipated. These included the growth of global American economic and military power, the advent of the nuclear age, the elimination of the British, French, Dutch, and Japanese colonial empires, and the division of the post-war world into two antagonistic blocs. Several of the issues that sparked World War I, including rival nationalism, competition for colonies, and security fears, continued to fester during the 1920s and 30s. Many Germans felt betrayed by what they considered to be a harsh and unjust peace settlement in Versailles. Italy and Japan also resented the limited territories they had gained from victory. France remained terrified at the possibility of a revived Germany. A financially strapped Great Britain resolved to avoid a land war in Europe at almost any cost while preserving its empire. The Soviet Union, born from the ruins of Tsarist Russia, remained an international outcast that preached a doctrine of world revolution. Most Americans regretted the failure of the Great War to make the world safe for democracy, and rued the fact that the lives lost and money spent had achieved so little. The prosperity of the 1920s mitigated these tensions. As the Depression engulfed the world during the 1930s, however, old resentments resurfaced. By the time of Roosevelt's inauguration in March 1933, dictators of the left and right ruled several major nations. Various forms of fascism, a political movement that linked militarists, big business, extreme nationalists, religious conservatives, and racial purists, dominated Italy and Germany, and they had footholds elsewhere in Europe and Latin America. In the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin established a dictatorship under the banner of the Communist Party. In Japan, power slipped away from the elected parliament and into the hands of the emperor and a coalition of military extremists and industrial tycoons who envisioned control of all of Asia. Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler spoke of creating a Greater Germany in control of Central and Eastern Europe, while Italy's Benito Mussolini proclaimed a goal of rebuilding a, quote, Roman Empire in the Mediterranean in northern Africa. To various degrees, German, Italian, and Japanese leaders justified their expansionist plans with a mystical belief in racial superiority that included the right to dominate or even exterminate what they called inferior peoples.